It was one of those chilly autumn evenings in downtown Seattle. The air was crisp, and the leaves crunched underfoot as people hurried home to the warmth of their apartments. Amidst the bustle, Chris, a 32-year-old marketing executive, was heading back from another long day at the office. His mind was preoccupied with upcoming projects and deadlines, barely noticing the world around him. As he walked past the familiar shops and cafes, something caught his eye. A woman and a young child huddled together under a thin blanket on the sidewalk. The sight pulled him out of his thoughts. The woman, likely in her late 20s, looked exhausted, her eyes red from either the cold or tears. The little boy, probably no older than 5, clung to her, his small face buried in her coat. Chris had seen homeless people before. Seattle wasn't a stranger to the struggles of the less fortunate, but something about this scene struck a chord in him. Maybe it was the vulnerability of the child or the sheer hopelessness in the woman's eyes. Whatever it was, he couldn't just walk by. "Hey," he said softly, crouching down to their level. The woman looked up, startled, but her expression softened when she saw the genuine concern on his face. "Do you need some help?" She hesitated, then nodded. We don't have anywhere to go," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I've tried shelters, but they're full." Chris felt a pang of empathy. "Come on," he said, offering his hand. "Let's get you two somewhere warm and figure things out." He took them to a nearby diner, the warm air and smell of coffee a stark contrast to the cold street outside. Over cups of hot chocolate and bowls of soup, he learned their story. Her name was Lisa, and her son was Ethan. They had come to Seattle in search of a fresh start after escaping an abusive relationship. Things hadn't gone as planned, and they had quickly run out of money and options. Chris's heart ached for them. He couldn't imagine being in their position, especially with a child to care for. As they talked, an idea began to form in his mind. He knew he couldn't solve all their problems, but he could help them get back on their feet. "Listen," he said, leaning forward. "I have a guest room in my apartment. It's not much, but it's warm, and you can stay there until we figure something out." Lisa's eyes widened in surprise and gratitude. I don't know what to say. Thank you. Thank you so much." Over the next few days, Chris helped Lisa navigate the labyrinth of social services and find a job. He introduced her to his network of friends, who rallied around to provide support, from babysitting to job leads. Lisa was determined and hardworking, and slowly but surely, things started to look up. Chris found himself growing attached to Ethan. The little boy had a bright, inquisitive nature that reminded Chris of himself at that age. They would spend evenings playing board games or watching cartoons, the apartment filled with the sound of Ethan's laughter. It was a stark contrast to Chris's usual solitary existence, and he found he didn't mind the change at all. But it wasn't until a few weeks later that Chris discovered something that changed everything. He was cleaning out some old boxes in his closet when he found a photo album. Flipping through the pages, he saw a picture of himself as a child, standing next to a woman who looked strikingly familiar. His heart raced as he realized it was Lisa's sister, who had disappeared years ago. The family had lost touch after a series of unfortunate events, and Chris had always wondered what had happened to her. Rushing to Lisa, he showed her the photo. Tears welled up in her eyes as she recognized her long-lost sister. The realization that they were family added a profound layer to their connection. Chris promised to help Lisa find her sister and reunite their family. The search wasn't easy. Lisa's sister had moved around a lot, leaving behind a trail that had grown cold over the years. Chris hired a private investigator, and together they followed every lead, no matter how small. It took months of phone calls, dead ends, and false hopes, but eventually, they found her in a small town in Oregon. The reunion was emotional, filled with tears, laughter, and endless stories. Lisa's sister, Emma, had been living a quiet life, unaware that her family had been searching for her. The joy of finding each other again was overwhelming, and it brought a sense of closure and new beginnings for both sisters. With Emma's support, Lisa's life took a turn for the better. She found a stable job at a local community center, where she could use her experiences to help others in similar situations. Ethan enrolled in a nearby school and quickly made friends, thriving in the stability that had been missing from his life for so long. Chris remained a constant presence, not just as a benefactor but as a friend and family member. He often visited Lisa and Emma, enjoying the sense of family and connection that had grown between them. He and Ethan continued their game nights, and Chris found himself playing a more active role in the boy's life, becoming a mentor and a father figure. One evening, as they sat around the dinner table, Lisa looked at Chris with gratitude in her eyes. "You changed our lives," she said. "I don't know what we would have done without you." Chris smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. He said, "I think you changed my life just as much. I was just a guy walking home from work, and now I have a family." The experience taught him about the power of kindness and the unexpected ways our lives can intertwine. Helping Lisa and Ethan had started as a simple act of compassion, but it ended up being a life-changing journey for all of them. In a city full of strangers, they had found a family, and that made all the difference in the world. Thank you so much for watching this video. I put a link down below about something very interesting you'll like. Go check that out. Subscribe for more daily content. See you on the next one.